This is Democracy Now! When we come back from break, we speak to the leader of a new party in Spain that has garnered massive support. It's called Podemos. We can. Stay with us.
La visita em parlava de bon matí al portal mentre el sol esperaven i els carros veien passar. Siset, que no veus l'estaca on estem tots lligats. Si no podem desfer-nos-en, mai no podrem caminar.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman with Aaron Mate.
We turn now to Europe. On Monday, talks between Greece and eurozone finance ministers over Athens' debt broke down when the newly elected leftist Syriza government rejected a deal to extend the terms of the current bailout. Meanwhile, a new anti-austerity party is also gaining popularity in Spain, Europe's fifth largest economy. On January 31st, as many as 150,000 people rallied in Madrid to show support for the Podemos party. That translates into We Can. Podemos only became an official party last March, but a recent poll found 28% of the population supports it, enough to possibly win Spain's next general election.
Last May, Podemos surprised many when it received 1.2 million votes and 5 seats in the European Parliament elections. The party grew out of the Indignados movement that began occupying squares in Spain 4 years ago. The Indignados rallied against austerity cuts, rising unemployment, and Spain's political establishment. On Monday, I sat down with Pablo Iglesias, the Secretary General of Podemos. He is a 36-year-old political science professor, longtime activist who was elected to the European Parliament last year. If Podemos wins Spain's national elections later this year, he could become Spain's next prime minister. He is in New York. I began by asking him to talk about Podemos.
Probably we are the answer to austerity policies in our country. I never thought it was possible a political phenomena as us in our country, and probably we are the result of the disaster of these policies of austerity in Spain, and probably we are the expression of the hope now. People in my country is starting to understand that in democracy, when something is going wrong, you can do the things well, and probably we are a new opportunity of change in Spain, and we are very happy to be an instrument of the people for the political change.
What exactly does austerity mean?
Austerity means that people is expulsed of their homes. Austerity means that the social services don't work anymore. Austerity means that public schools have not the elements, the means to develop their activity. Austerity means that the countries have not sovereignty anymore, and we became a colony of the financial powers and a colony of Germany. Austerity probably means the end of democracy. I think if we don't have democratic control of economy, we don't have democracy. It's impossible to separate economy and democracy, in my opinion.
Can you explain what the Indignados movement is, what it means?
The Indignados movement is probably the best expression of an organic crisis in the political regime in Spain. In Gramscian terms, that means this demonstration in Puerta del Sol and in other places in Spain means the end of the consensus with this political regime in Spain. Even if the electoral expression of that new situation was not immediately, I think that it was the basis, it was the key element that allowed us finally to get this support we are getting now.
So you've won in the European Parliament. What is your strategy going forward?
The first thing is to make visible the problems that European citizens have, and we we use all the time the European Parliament in order to give visibility to social groups and to give visibility to problems in order to open a discussion in the society. And in fact, the media attention to the European Parliament since we are there is great, is growing, and we are happy with that.
Podemos has organized citizens' assemblies.
Yes, we have circles. Circles are the local aggregation of people of Podemos, and we have more than 1,200. In Spain and overseas, in the United States, there is a circle, a Podemos circle, and I will meet them today, and tonight we have a meeting with them and a conference, and I'm
And what do these circles do?
The circles are activists, and they organize campaigns. They have meetings with civil society in their cities and in their districts. They are the basis. They are the most important instrument of Podemos in order to have relationship with society.
Pablo Iglesias, can you explain the political landscape in Spain? The PP, the Socialists, your own party, Podemos, even the other parties, Izquierda Unida, and why your party rose up and pulled away support from these other parties?
Probably we have been able to change the chess party, the chess game, because we don't accept this all distinction between left and right. Obviously, I'm a leftist, but I think that this game that separate the political field between center-left and center-right sometimes is something very useful to make the banks win. And we say, we have a program. We have a program defending democracy. We want social services, we want public education, we want sovereignty, and we are sure that there is a majority of the society that is supporting us. So it's not a problem for us the past of the people. If you in the past vote for the right, no problem for us. If you support our ideas, if you support the possibility of a political change in Spain, if you support democracy, you can be with us. In fact, the two messages of the 15M movement in our country.
And that was May 15th?
Yeah, exactly, May 15. It was, we want democracy and we don't feel represented by this elite of all politicians. So we think that there is a big difference between the old situation and the new situation. And people in Spain is starting to understand that the old political elites are not able to improve the situation and to resolve the economic and political problems in my country.
Pablo, how did you move from being a movement to a party? How was that decision made?
For necessity, because we understood very well that if you need to change the things, you need political power, and we were activists and we used to work in social fields in the civil society, but we know that it's very important to occupy the institutional powers in order to change things. It's quite important to be in the parliament. It's quite important to win the elections.
Would you describe the Socialists and the PP sort of like the Republicans and Democrats in the United States? They're the two main parties.
Yeah.
How have they responded to the rise of Podemos?
Using the same language is something quite ironic that the center-left and the center-right party use the same words in order to attack us. And I'm sure that the voters of the Socialist Party don't like that, and many of our voters came from the Socialist Party, but unfortunately in my country they show that they support the same economic policy, and that was a disaster in my country. They both develop austerity policies that bring our country to a terrible situation now.
What is that situation? Can you describe unemployment and other issues?
My country have three big problems: inequality, unemployment, and debt. and the Socialist Party and the Popular Party in my country understood that the best way to improve the situation was austerity. After 5 years, or even more, even 6 years, the situation is worse than before. So we think that in democracy, if something doesn't work, you can change. And we are saying we want to organize another way to improve the situation.
Did you take Podemos' name from President Obama's whole yes we can sort of mantra leading into his election?
Of course not. The expression yes we can came from the Latinos in the 70s fighting for their rights, and it was a good example for us. Obama was quite clever using that, but it's not a creation of Obama.
My colleague Juan Gonzalez, co-host on Democracy Now!, just wrote a column in the New York Daily News about these U.S. firms that are buying housing in Spain, raising rent and evicting tenants. He particularly looked at Blackstone Group, Goldman Sachs, Apollo Management, Cerberus, which have quietly been buying up tens of thousands of residential properties in Madrid and Barcelona at low prices. Now, protesters have gathered outside Blackstone Group in the last weeks in the United States to protest what not only these companies are doing here, but what they're doing in your country.
In our country, and the government is doing nothing. That's the reason, because we need to win the elections. It's completely unacceptable that these people are getting houses, and many Spanish families are without a house in a very difficult situation. I think we need a government ready to protect the people against this kind of people.
Can you explain the system in Spain that people here would find unusual? That you owe mortgage payments even after you've been evicted from your house. Explain this phenomenon, these rules in Spain that have actually led to suicides.
Yeah, exactly. When you don't have enough money in order to pay to the bank, you have to give your house, and after that you have to pay for the interest, and you have to pay for your debt, and even you don't have a house, and you have to give a very big part of your salary, if you have a salary because you have a work, to the bank. This is completely absurd. There are many families in Spain in a desperate situation because they don't have a house, and they have to pay to the banks, and the banks have some responsibility with the crisis, not the family. So it's a completely unacceptable situation.
What should happen?
Because the government organize a legislation for the banks, a legislation very good for the banks and very bad for the families.
If you were Prime Minister, what would be the 3 major first steps you would take?
The first thing is to finish with the evictions of the families, and this is quite easy. Using the European law, we could stop that in the first week. I think it's very important to organize a restructuration of the debt. It's impossible to assume for a government the level of the debt now, and a fiscal reform. In my country are just the middle and small companies that pay taxes, and the workers, and the rich companies and the top companies have a very little fiscal pressure. So it should be very important to make a fiscal reform.
Pablo Iglesias, you would not only be dealing with domestic policy but foreign policy. I mean, when Prime Minister Aznar was in office, he supported President Bush in invading Iraq. But Prime Minister Zapatero, who came next, he pulled the troops out. Yeah. Where do you stand on issues in the Middle East, on what should happen with the Islamic State, ISIS, ISIL, and other conflict areas?
I think we need a new leadership that defend the peace. And I think that use military in order to confront terrorism sometimes was not useful. And I think that the policy of the United States regarding Middle East sometimes bring more problems than solutions. I think that in Europe we need a European system of defense. I don't like the military sovereignty of Europe depending of the NATO, and I think that we have to protect the peace.
The situation of Ukraine now?
I think that Europeans need a good relationship with Russia. I don't like the political system in Russia. I'm not a supporter of Vladimir Putin, but I think Europeans, we don't need a pre-bellic situation with Russia. I think some European powers were supporting a coup d'etat in Ukraine, and that's not a good news, and now Europeans are in danger.
What about the Western Sahara? It's not as well known in the United States, but it's certainly a major issue in Spain.
I think we have a responsibility with Sahara, and we should support autodetermination of Western Sahara, and I think they have the right to have their own country.
Israel-Palestine?
It's a complete disaster. Israel is violating the international law all the time, and I think that the international community should have some pressure to Israel in order to respect the international law and go back to the borders of the before the war.
Podemos has been compared to Syriza. You've described some of the ways you're similar. How are you different?
We are different because we just have 1 year of history, and Syriza is a very well organized political party, and we have a different history and a different political context. I think the economic situation in Greece is different respect to Spain, and the economic situation too. But we think they are the possibility of change in Greece, and we admire them so much, and we are friends, and we will collaborate with them.
And do you have any words of advice for President Obama? Now in his second term, he can't run again. Whether he will be a lame duck president or a legacy president remains to be seen.
I don't know. I don't know what could I say to President Obama. There is something that I like. We both love The Wire, the HBO series, and I like Omar too, and I read that Obama like this character Omar, and I don't know.
Why do you like The Wire?
I think it's probably the best TV series in order to explain how the power works in politics, in media, in the organization of the work. I think it's a masterpiece. I used to teach political geography in my faculty, and all the time I was saying to my students, you have to see this TV series because it's great in order to understand how the power works.
Do you have anything like that in Spain?
Not in that level. I think that The Wire is the best series.
Pablo Iglesias, leader of the Podemos party in Spain, which is leading in at least one poll for the national elections in Spain. He is speaking today in New York at the CUNY Grad Center, 365 Fifth Avenue at 1 p.m. We'll also be posting an interview with Iglesias in Spanish on our website later this week at democracynow.org. A very special happy birthday to Neil Shibata. Democracy Now!